So, Sid, this is like वो जो Avengers movie में बाद में सीन आता है ना कास्टिंग के बाद तो but you had very important information for जो माँ बाप अपने बच्चों के फ्यूचर के बारे में बहुत वरीड है और उनको ट्यूशनों में डाल रहे हैं कि भाई इंजीनियर बनेगा या एमबीए बनेगा या कुछ और फलाना ढिमकाना बनेगा तो कैन यू शेयर दिस पब्लिक सर्विस अनाउंसमेंट विद अस?
So, in addition to air pollution impacting you in terms of diabetes and cardiovascular issues and all of that, air pollution actually reduces your ability to do mathematics. It
Wow.
impacts your ability to do logical reasoning. In fact, studies were done in many parts in the world, but I'll give you one specific study. ये Colombia में हुआ था. In Colombia, they basically measured two cohorts of children. One set of children were living in places with very high air pollution and one in
Right.
relatively clean air. Everything else was controlled for. मतलब मतलब their parents' education level or parents' income levels and all those things were controlled for. They just checked, after controlling for everything, they just checked how these kids did over time. Several years later, the children who were exposed to higher pollution were doing much worse at mathematics, much
Right.
worse at logical reasoning.
Yeah.
And then they kept tracking these kids until they went on to do their first jobs when they finally turned 15, 20, whatever. They realized that the children who were in the higher pollution regions were earning less money, partly because their scores were bad in school. तो अगर आप high pollution region में हो तो आपके बच्चों पे बहुत असर पड़ रहा है, not just today but even for the next 10, 20, 30.
और पैसे नहीं कमा पाएंगे तो आपकी रिटायरमेट में नहीं मदद कर सकेंगे एंड आई वुड
शादी नहीं हो सकेगी यार, सबसे बड़ा अजाब तो ये
और मुझे अब समझ आ गया कि मैं मैथ्स में फेल क्यों होता था। ये तो आज तो ये डिस्कवरी हो गई। ठीक है, ये मेरा फॉल्ट तो था ही नहीं। आज मैं अपने माँ बाप को जाके बहुत ही फख्र से बताऊंगा कि ये तो एयर पोल्यूशन की गलती थी सारी। बट यस, बट थैंक यू सर, दैट वाज एक्चुअली वेरी रेलेवेंट। हेलो एवरीवन एंड वेलकम टू द मिट्टी पाव पॉडकास्ट। इन टुडेज एपिसोड व्हिच इज द पार्ट 2 ऑफ आवर सीरीज ऑन एनवायरनमेंट इन द सबकॉन्टिनेंट और इंडिया पाकिस्तान इन पर्टिकुलर, we have a very special guest with us who is an author who has talked about issues pertaining to the environment and most importantly someone who owns a house in Goa, and that is why I'm proud to say he is my best friend, although he does not know that yet. But I would like to welcome Siddharth Singh. And hi Siddharth.
Hi Amit, good to see you finally after so long.
Right. Okay, so before I let Siddharth talk, I will briefly introduce his very long list of accomplishments.
Really long.
Yeah, really long, by the way.
Very intimidating resume.
Very short though.
वैसे उसने 4 लाइनें भेजी थी हमें, बट हाँ ठीक है। सिद्धार्थ सिंह is a researcher of energy, climate and air pollution who's based in India. Some of his recent publications include the India Energy Outlook that looks at the next 20 years of energy use and emissions. And also he's authored a book which is called The Great Smog of India, which talks about India's air pollution crisis and environmental crisis in general. And he has worked with a range of institutions, including TERI in Delhi and the Wuppertal Institute in Berlin. तो ये है भाई लंबी चौड़ी लिस्ट सिद्धार्थ के अकम्पलिशमेंट्स की। और आज हम सिद्धार्थ से बात करने जा रहे हैं इंडिया में जो एनवायरमेंटल क्राइसिस है उसके ऊपर, उसके बारे में क्या किया जा सकता है और उसके बारे में हम इतनी ज्यादा केयर क्यों नहीं करते। And before I actually get into the conversation with Siddharth, मुझे आज उस्मान ने बताया कि उसकी जिंदगी जो काफी ट्रेजेडियों से घिरी होती है, कि कल रात को उसकी बिजली कट गई थी, पिछले हफ्ते उसका पानी का टैंकर आ गया था। तो उस्मान तुम शुरू करो और आई थिंक इसी मतलब बहुत ही ट्रैजिक इवेंट से हम शुरू करते हैं आज की पॉडकास्ट और फिर वील गेट इनटू आवर डिस्कशन।
थैंक्स सो मच अमित। एक तो मेरी जिंदगी में वैसी ट्रेजेडियां चल रही हैं पानी की और बिजली की, जो बाय द वे इस मुल्क की और इस रीजन के लोगों की जो है कोई, इट्स नॉट लाइक एनी स्पेशल थिंग फॉर देम, दे आर प्रीटी मच गोइंग थ्रू इट ऑल द टाइम. But I guess I wanted to share a story with you guys about something that just happened to me yesterday, which I think would be a much more informative experience for understanding exactly climate change हमें किस तरह affect कर रहा है. हमने actually ये series जो है शुरू की थी इस aspect से कि हम World Environment Day के ऊपर थोड़ा सी अपनी awareness जो है बढ़ाएं कि exactly climate change और environment हमें किस तरह affect कर रही है. But शायद हम बहुत बार उन चीज़ों का impact सही तरह समझ नहीं सकते. To give you like an example of how my life was affected by climate change yesterday. So, kal dopair ko around afternoon time, my friend's nephew was crossing by a road and he saw this really, really tiny baby bird. We've labeled her as Lil B. So, Lil B was just lying on the road, almost completely still, with her legs really badly mangled. She was obviously disabled. and she looked kind of dead. And so he picked her up and he noticed that there was still a bit of life in her. And we obviously took her to the doctor, and we found out that because of the extreme heat, she had just passed out from dehydration and she'd just fallen down and gotten injured. और हमने कोशिश बहुत की to try and replenish her. We tried hydrating her as well as best as we could. We provided medication to her, but despite our best efforts, she expired at 3 a.m. last night. Obviously, it's heartbreaking. In a way, it's a comforting thought that Bichari, her last moments were spent with as much comfort as possible, and she was well fed and she was in a good environment. But at the same time, it really breaks my heart because एक नन्ही सी जान है जिसने इस पूरे हीट वेव के जो इफेक्ट्स जो है ना पूरे तौर पे जो है एक्सपीरियंस किए हैं, उसका जो नुकसान उसके ऊपर पहुंचे, दैट्स समथिंग दैट वी कैन ऑल लर्न फ्रॉम. आई मीन currently Islamabad is going through a really bad heat wave of 40-45 degrees plus, and whenever I look at the impact of climate change, it's easy to make it about oneself. Oh, I'm so hot, and AC on kar do, something like that. And it's very easy to think that it's only a certain group of people that's getting affected. But I guess what we don't tend to think about too much is that climate change really doesn't just affect one particular group of people, doesn't just affect one particular sector of society, it doesn't affect just one particular country. It literally affects the entire planet, from the flora and the fauna, from all creatures large and small. And I guess Lil B's ordeal yesterday kind of put today's conversation into a more somber and introspective method or view of looking at this. And so I'm really glad, Sid, that you could join us in today's conversation. And it's a really good opportunity for us to kind of understand that हम बहुत बार जब क्लाइमेट चेंज की बात करते हैं वी स्टिल लुक एट इट एज अ वेरी आउटसाइडर बेस्ड इशू कि ये वेस्टर्न इशू है या ये एलिटिस्ट इशू है या एकेडमिक इशू है, एंड वी डोंट रियली फाइंड अ वे टू समहाउ ट्रांसलेट इट इनटू अ वे दैट perhaps we can understand how it affects our lives. That debate is considered as too inaccessible and unrelatable. And I think one of the great things about your book is that, and not just your book, your work, is that you've kind of helped to translate all this really complex data set and figures and put them into a way that our audiences and our people can actually understand कि ये इनकी जिंदगियों पर किस तरह फर्क पड़ा.
Right. So Sid, why don't you actually, that's a great segue. Why don't you actually talk about your book and just generally the extent of this crisis कि हमें इसकी परवाह क्यों करनी चाहिए और मतलब कि हमारी आम जिंदगी पे इसका क्या असर पड़ता है. तो आप एक नक्शा खींच दो कि प्रॉब्लम क्या है पहले, एंड उसके बाद फिर हम उसके पर्टिकुलर्स के बारे में डिस्कस कर सकते हैं.
जी बिल्कुल. So of course, thank you for having me here. And starting on that note, Usman, I think this is of course an issue that is endemic to our entire region. It goes beyond one city or one part of the subcontinent. I've also been facing issues with electricity and water and all of that sitting here in Goa. In fact, just last month, the western coast of India was hit by a cyclone, which is a very rare thing. Usually right. India के east coast पे cyclones काफी होते हैं, वहाँ पे इतने सालों से हो रहे हैं. So they have developed the necessary infrastructure and systems to evacuate people, to make sure that बिजली पानी वगैरह they all come back on track immediately after the cyclone passes. This is not true on the western coast. On the western coast, we don't receive cyclones that frequently. In fact, in the past many decades, there have been very few cyclones that have actually made landfall. So last year, I remember, we were discussing this with some documentary filmmakers who wanted to talk about the future of climate change in India. So उन्होंने कहा, let's sit and discuss, let's try to visualize what the worst of climate change can look like in India so that it's relatable to somebody who's sitting in South Bombay or South Delhi or, in downtown parts of big cities where people generally tend to be a little more distant to nature, so to speak. So one of the things I said, let's imagine how Mumbai would look like if Mumbai had a huge cyclone hitting it. But they said, but ऐसे मुंबई में तो यार cyclone, मैंने तो कभी सुना नहीं है, ऐसा तो आता है. What are we talking about? But what happened? That very year, Mumbai saw cyclone. Now, that was 1 year ago. 1 year later, in the year 2021, we have seen another once in a 50-year cyclone hitting it second year in a row. Right. So this is exactly what climate change is, right? That the extreme weather events, so we're talking about cyclones, floods, extreme rainfall, On the other side, we have drought, famine, basically. What is climate change doing to that? It is firstly making it more frequent. तो जो चीज 100 साल में एक बार आनी चाहिए वो अब हर 5 साल आने वाली है या ऑलरेडी स्टार्ट हो रहा है. Secondly, it becomes more intense. So a category 3 cyclone is becoming a category 4 cyclone. And therefore, that is having an impact on people. So when this cyclone hit Goa last month, I didn't have electricity for a week because everything around me had basically got destroyed. I had to move into a hotel in Panji. Panji is the capital of Goa, where there are underground lines and so on. So therefore, it is more resilient to extreme weather events. But I live in a village in up north. So yahan pe to it was a big problem. Goa was also having a COVID crisis at the same time. So Goa had the highest COVID cases per capita in the country. And at that time, many homes had these oxygen concentrators that needed electricity to run. So now you can imagine the number of people who were relying on oxygen at their homes without electricity. A backup can last a day or two, but beyond that, you have to move to a hospital and all of that. So basically, this is exactly what climate change is doing. This is why we should worry about it. This is why it affects everyone. So especially the South Asian subcontinent is one where it is one of the most vulnerable regions in the world. So, this is not just me saying it because I have to make a point, but genuinely, if you look at a global map of vulnerabilities, South Asia is among the most vulnerable on the planet, and especially some parts of it closer to Bangladesh, which is very prone to flooding, some parts of India, and of course crossing into the Pakistani border as well, where drought is likely, and of course biodiversity loss in the Ghats. So there are different types of impacts that we would continue to see.
अच्छा, जो तुमने अभी गोवा में एग्जांपल दिया ना कि जो लोग ऑक्सीजन इंसिनरेटर्स पे डिपेंडेंट थे, उन जब बिजली चली गई तो उनको दिक्कतें पेश आई, और यू टॉकिंग अबाउट साउथ दिल्ली एंड साउथ बॉम्बे पीपल, तो मुझे इससे दो चीजें जहन में आई मेरे, और तुम्हारी किताब से रिलेटेड है वो. पहली तो थोड़ी सी ग्लिब है, मतलब थोड़ी मजाकिया है, कि वन वे ऑफ गेटिंग साउथ बॉम्बे पीपल टू रियलाइज दिस कि उनके जो बहुत महंगे महंगे सी फेसिंग प्रॉपर्टीज हैं उनकी शायद कोई कीमत ना रह जाए. ठीक है, तो जस्ट क्योंकि लोग वैसे तो समझेंगे नहीं कि जाने चली जाएंगी, चली जाती है, अरे प्रॉपर्टी के प्राइस नीचे गिर रहे हैं, अरे ठीक है. और दूसरी चीज ये कि इंडिया भी सेकंड वेव ऑफ कोविड से जूझ रहा था, और नहीं हमने डेथ्स देखी हैं, ऑफिशियल काउंट ही लाखों में है, और पता नहीं अनऑफिशियल मे बी इन मिलियंस, मतलब 22-30 लाख होगा, वो न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स के जो भी फिगर्स आए थे. अब जब मैं तुम्हारी किताब पढ़ रहा था तो उसमें एक बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग फिगर था विच आई डिड नॉट नो बिफोर रीडिंग योर बुक. वो ये कि ड्यू टू एयर पोल्यूशन अलोन India experiences about 1 million or 1.1 million deaths. I don't remember the exact figure you had mentioned in your book. कि तकरीबन 11 लाख लोग हर साल prematurely, like COVID has led to a lot of premature deaths. जिन लोगों की कोई उम्र नहीं थी वो भी शिकार हो गए उसका. तो एयर पोल्यूशन भी हर साल बासाल वो ऐसे ही काम करता है, और रिपीटेडली पता नहीं कितने साल से ये मतलब ये कहानी चली जा रही है. सो दैट इन अ वे एक्सपोज टू मी द लेवल ऑफ द क्राइसिस कि ये 11 लाख लोग मतलब हर साल मर रहे हैं और हमें कुछ फिक्र ही नहीं है. सो टेल मी इन अ सेंस कि चलो बायोडाइवर्सिटी के बारे में तो कोई केयर नहीं करता, ठीक है, एंड आई एम बीइंग वेरी पर्पसली यूजिंग दिस टोन कि ठीक है जी कोई स्पीशीज मर गए, कोई बात नहीं, हमें क्या, सानू की, काइंड ऑफ अ थिंग. सो टेल मी समथिंग कि इन लेट्स से जो इंसान इससे नहीं जूझ रहा, जो किसान नहीं है, जिसकी फसल पे असर नहीं पड़ रहा, ठीक है, जो कि एसी चला सकता है, जिसके घर में जनरेटर लगा हुआ है, एंड हु कैन हैव अ एयर प्यूरिफायर, राइट, why should they care? Like उसकी एक फैमिली है, what impact does climate change have on that person and or his family or her family?
So, firstly, this number is so staggering, no? मतलब हर साल अगर 11 लोग या 11 लाख या 12 लाख लोग या में मर रहे हैं, that already makes it more dangerous than almost any other killer in the country, apart from, cardiovascular issues or something like that. Right? That these are more deaths than road accidents, more deaths than COVID. In fact, it's making COVID worse. COVID in regions where there high air pollution, because at the end of the day, it's related to the lungs, and lungs do get impacted with air pollution. So why should people care about it? Why should elite people especially care about it? Is because firstly, in general, this is a big problem in whole of South Asia, but also in different parts of the world, where the rich have been able to escape the nature or escape the consequences of their actions. For example, we have polluted our rivers, we have polluted our lakes. but the rich are able to have a RO machine or a water purifier at home, right?
Right.
So similarly, the rich may not have invested through the mechanisms of the government and other institutions. They may not have invested into, say, security or social security in the society. But it's easy for them to, live in a gated community, build their own private roads. But how do you escape something as basic as air? Air we all breathe. It impacts the rich as much as it impacts the poor. Of course, some poor, it does impact more. It is in a way an inequality issue again, because some of the poorest people may be exposed to dust on the roadside or other forms of pollutants near polluting, power plant or something. But having said that, at the end of the day, it is something that impacts everyone. And the reason why, despite 11 lakh people or 12 lakh people dying every year, nobody really cares about the issue is because there's no connection drawn. When a person dies of, for example, some extreme form of disease, they don't know that this disease was itself caused due to air pollution in the first place. Right. India is known as the diabetes capital of the world. Only recently have studies come out and confirmed that diabetes ki incidence increases significantly and due to air pollution. In fact, air pollution is one of the causes of diabetes. You link diabetes with sugar, right? Pethe kha liye ya gulab jamun kha liya, but it's air pollution that is, equally a major trigger for diabetes. Now, nobody knows that. Every second household has somebody who has diabetes. This is one of the kind of leading causes. Similarly, cardiovascular issues. India may, again, almost every second house has a issue with either heart attacks or blood pressure or something. Again, related to air pollution. Air pollution in general leads to so many different health issues that we don't realize that what we think is happening due to all these other reasons is actually happening due to air pollution. Until that line is drawn, people will not care and people will not understand. And I think a language of environment or language of climate action or language of air pollution, this language is not about Hindi or English or Urdu or, Farsi or whatever. It is a language of how do you put what is happening in the nature as a whole into words that you and I can understand. And how do you translate a global change into something that is personal to you and me?
Okay. Right.
So that is a big challenge, I would say, in terms of being able to communicate.
अच्छा इसमें एक और भी जो interesting challenge, I mean, I think Sid touches upon a really important point. I can't help but, while you guys are talking, Jerry Seinfeld is the famous stand-up comedian. He has this joke that the helmet is the worst invention ever created by mankind. Because it's like we have these fast motorbikes and we know that, eventually we're going to fall down, crack on our heads and, that's going to injure us. But instead of choosing to forego that lifestyle and save our heads, we actually invented an invention that could help us continue on that head cracking lifestyle. No? So it's similar to that. Humne actually we've not really tried to mitigate the circumstances which have led to this issue. I mean, particularly looking at your book and its reference, the economically privileged class, which of course includes the political class as well of India, and not just within India, but also this is also true of Pakistan. Everyone's facing climate change like the rest, but some have found ways to escape those situations. So like मिसाल के तौर पे अगर हुकूमत एजुकेशन नहीं प्रोवाइड करी सही तरह तो आप प्राइवेट स्कूल पे शिफ्ट हो जाएं, अगर हेल्थ केयर नहीं प्रोवाइड करी तो आप प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल्स पे चले जाएं, अगर सिक्योरिटी सही तरह नहीं प्रोवाइड करी गेटेड कम्युनिटीज पे चले जाएं, अगर साफ पानी नहीं है तो वाटर प्यूरिफायर्स पे चले जाएं, क्लीन एयर नहीं है तो एयर प्यूरिफायर से पड़े जाएं. So it's like the privileged class has somehow used the helmet approach, the helmet defense approach, to try and prevent itself from being affected as it. And I think one really interesting thing in your book that I saw was like a lot of these solutions, like the case of air purifiers, are not just as ineffective, but are actually contributing more to the overall problem. Like, why do you think this denial is so prevalent within our societies?
I think the denial comes from at least two aspects. The first is, like I just said, this inability to draw the link between our actions and what is happening at the global level with our personal. But second, and perhaps more relevant to societies such as ours, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and so on, is how our developmental needs are often seen to be the most important thing to pursue at the expense of everything else. So, just think about how a politician would react to any call for action in their particular constituency. If there's a big industry that is polluting, that is, I'll give you a small example of my own village. Okay? Let's make it even more specific. So in my village, I'm not talking about Goa right now, in Rajasthan, not very far from the Pakistan border, where my family comes from, there is a factory that produces aluminum foil. In fact, in India, आप जो भी ये डिस्प्रिन क्रोसिन वगैरह खाते हो, very good chance कि वो मेरे गांव से वो foil बन के आया है. They're one of the largest producers of that in the country. Now, what they also do, so they have this, mainstream factory that is well regulated, and ठीक है, उसमें pollution होता है थोड़ा बहुत, but that is the reason why in our village there are thousands of very good paying jobs, which has kept the economy of the region alive.
Right.
Due to the presence of that factory also, our village receives electricity for a long amount of time because it's all linked to the same grid, and therefore, people have benefited overall from the existence of that factory. But in recent years, or recent months rather, the owners of this factory have started bringing second-hand aluminium to recycle. Now again, recycling is a good thing because the more you recycle, the better it is for the environment, the less your overall carbon emissions come ho rahe hain, and so on. But the way in which he does it leads to such toxic fumes. Like you can literally see green color and brown color fumes that are not going. It's the weight of the fumes itself is so heavy that it is not dissipating into the atmosphere. It is basically settling down into the same village. People in my village have started complaining of all sorts of health issues that did not exist previously. How do you take action against this? So firstly, you obviously need to kind of activate the legal system or the law and order or police or whatever, file it under environmental laws. Secondly, you need some political momentum against it also. But the very same people in my village and, politicians in the region are against taking any action against this work that's happening. Simply because this brings jobs, this brings whatever. People link the infrastructure of their surroundings as well as their livelihoods to economic activities that lead to this problem in the first place. Right. But of course, then we can discuss this separately. But when we look at examples around the world, we will see that that's not really the case. We can separate the paths of development and environmental action in a manner that you can have both. It's not a dichotomy. It's not a choice that we have to make one among the other. Yeah. But unfortunately, that's the perception of people. And as long as the perception is going to be that the environment is going to be a casualty as we try to progress, we will see that people don't.
Exactly. Right. So, जो हमारा पिछला एपिसोड था ना, उसमें हमने इसी चीज पे बात खत्म की थी कि हम नॉर्मली सोचते हैं कि रोजगार या एनवायरनमेंट के रोजगार या साफ पानी, रोजगार या साफ हवा, कि या तो तुम नौकरी पे चले जाओ या तुम साफ हवा और साफ पानी में जियो, राइट? और मैंने वहां पे एक तनकीद, एक क्रिटिसिज्म किया था कि जो हमारा जो मौजूदा इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम है, द बिग सी, उसमें ये जो मिटिगेशन है वो शायद मुश्किल है, क्योंकि इफ इट इज बेस्ड कि आज अगर मैं 5 फोन बना रहा हूँ और कल मैं 10 फोन बनाऊंगा और उस पे मेरा प्रॉफिट पूरा मार्जिन डिपेंड करता है, तो उसमें रिसोर्स एक्सट्रैक्टिविज्म, आप मतलब अपनी जो क्या कहते हैं माइंस हैं उसमें ज्यादा मेटल निकाल रहे हैं, आप पोल्यूट कर रहे हैं, तो उसमें वो शायद मुमकिन मिटिगेशन ना हो. लेकिन जो तुम कह रहे हो कि जो हम डेवलपमेंट और इन्वायरमेंट को साथ में रख सकते हैं, और इधर एक दूसरी चीज भी मैं ऐड करना चाहता हूँ कि जब मैं ये लफ्ज इस्तेमाल करता हूँ डेवलपमेंट, तो शायद जो हमारा लिसनर होगा उसके जहन में कुछ और एक फोटो छप के आएगी, वो होगी कि जी फ्लाईओवर है या शॉपिंग मॉल है या मतलब कोई ऐसी चीज है, ठीक है, और शायद मेरे जहन में कुछ और होगा. So what do you mean when we say we can develop, in the sense development and be environmentally sustainable, और इन दोनों को जोड़ा कैसे जा सकता है? If you can explain using policy examples या मतलब whatever, I'll leave that to you. You're the expert.
No, for sure. So, I guess I draw my understanding of the word development from one of my favorite scholars and one of the people who have helped guide my own work and my own understanding in this realm of economics, which is Amartya Sen. So in Amartya Sen's definition of development, I love the elegance of his definition because it's so small. And if you think about it, it really explains the purpose of everything we do and everything that we wish to do and pursue. So his definition of development is that development is freedom. Now, what this basically means is that in our societies, or in any society in the history of humanity, and in fact, even coming over the next several centuries, would be various impediments that people face. ठीक है, these impediments are of various kinds. You may not have adequate resources to, for example, get the food you want to eat, or you may not have the adequate resources to go to a place that you want to go, or to, you know, to lead a happy life, or to do whatever you want, basically experience the world around you in a manner that is fulfilling to your wishes. If you have those impediments and you're unable to do those things, then you're not free in various ways. So development is a process of achieving those greater levels of freedom by providing whatever it takes to get to that. So in this case, for example, it would mean if I want to understand the universe around me and there are impediments, then the way to overcome that obstacle is education. But in a more practical manner, it means कि अगर मैं गांव में हूं तो मेरे गांव में स्कूल होना चाहिए. School के बाद में I should have access to a university after that, or to pursue what I want to do. It means that अगर मुझे कॉलेज जाना है और कॉलेज अगले टाउन में है, तो there should be a way for me to go there physically. Like there should be either a path to go there, you know, or an infrastructure that enables me to go there. It means that if I'm unwell and I'm unable to do something, if I'm unable to be with my family because I have some disease or some other issue, to overcome that obstacle means provision of healthcare. It means that there should be a clinic or primary healthcare so that we are able to, you know, access healthcare. These are just some ways that makes human beings more free. Right. So this understanding of development is freedom. We see that air pollution or climate change or water pollution or soil pollution, these are all forms of unfreedom. They're all forms of barriers that reduce our freedom because it takes away something from us. So when I understand development, I am basically in my head visualizing all those things. But आप बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं. When I first used development, like when I said कि, you know, when people think of development versus environment, that development I was specifically referring to, you know, factories बन रही है या road बन रहे हैं या GDP grow हो रही है. You know, I wanted to draw the difference between the popular understanding of development versus what it really means to be a human being trying to experience the world around us.
I mean, this is a really interesting point that Sid has raised कि हमारी जो understanding development की जो है वो actually एक ऐसी है जिसमें हमने on our own कुछ dichotomies पेश की हुई हैं that something has to happen at the cost of something, and you can actually see कि policy level पे भी हम ये dichotomies करते हैं. Just listening to what you're saying, I mean, you know, वही बात जो Sam कहता है about negative freedoms versus positive freedoms. I mean, it's almost जब भी हम resource की जब बात करते हैं तो it seems like there, at least the way states are looking at it seems like there's a dichotomy between resource management and resource sustainability. I mean, just to kind of illustrate this example, Danish Mustafa, who's a geographer and academic at King's College, he wrote this really interesting article once, like water management, ki jo political economy hai, it's a very masculinist approach that it involves. So it's like, for example, जब हम irrigation or power generation को prioritize करते हैं over improved water supply and sanitation, जब हम फ्लड कंट्रोल को प्रायोरिटाइज करते हैं ओवर एडजस्टिंग टू फ्लड्स, जब हम मेगा सरफेस स्टोरेज प्रोजेक्ट्स को प्रायोरिटाइज करते हैं ओवर ग्राउंड वाटर स्टोरेज एंड वेटलैंड रेस्टोरेशन, it almost reflects this very masculinist view of the world that we have to bend nature to our will so it can provide us the resources that we deserve, you know, so that we can extract from it. That sort of resource extractive mindset comes to it. And the idea कि आपको sustainability maintain करनी चाहिए या हार्मनी मेंटेन करिए नेचर के साथ, इट्स सीन एज अ वेरी फेमिनिन काइंड ऑफ पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. एंड यू नो, स्पेशली जब हम बात करते हैं ना कोऑपरेशन की, cooperation at some level is just seen as a feminine thing to do. Like the real masculine thing to do would be कि भाई किसी के पास ये resources, आप वो resources छीन लें या कोई और आपसे वो resources छीनना चाहता है. And especially when you apply this to a regional context with India and China and Pakistan, I can't help but think that this kind of winner takes all approach. Exactly. वो like वो एक winner takes all like approach रहती है. I mean, it's almost like the idea that dog eat dog, winner takes all approach to resource management is actually being prioritized over the idea of cooperation.
Right. अच्छा, इधर मैं एक और बात जोड़ दूं एंड देन सेड यू कैन टॉक अबाउट बोथ, क्योंकि यहाँ पे उस्मान ने जिक्र किया ये डॉग ईट डॉग, तो मतलब ये कि भाई अगर मैं जीतूंगा तो कोई तो हारेगा, या मैं अगर आगे बढ़ूंगा तो कोई तो पीछे जाएगा. राइट. हमारी जो सोच है वो इन्हीं मतलब हदबंदियों में वो कैद हो गई है कहीं. तो इधर मुझे ऑब्वियसली मेरे जहन में तो इंडिया पाकिस्तान भी आ रहे हैं, क्योंकि जिस तरह से हम इन्वायरमेंट का सोचते हैं, हम ये सोचते हैं हाँ अच्छा जी, गवर्नमेंट को काम करना चाहिए। अच्छा, इंडियन गवर्नमेंट को काम करना चाहिए, ठीक है, बट ऑब्वियसली हम ये तो नहीं है कि हम इंडियन पंजाब की हवा इंडियन पंजाब में कैद कर लें और फिर पाकिस्तान को बोलें कि तुम अपनी हवा इस्तेमाल करो, ठीक है, ये तो हो नहीं सकता।
ये भी एलिगेशन लगा है बाय द वे हमारे ऊपर।
हाँ तो हाँ, तो आप लोग अपने कबूतर और अपनी हवा दोनों अपनी तरफ रखो, ठीक है ना। तो
अपना एक क्यों है ना रखो फिर।
हाँ बिल्कुल। सो सिड एंड तुमने अपनी किताब में भी जिक्र किया था इस चीज का कि यू नो वी नीड टू मूव पास्ट दिस, कि जी दिल्ली में पोल्यूशन बहुत बढ़ गया है। ऑब्वियसली इट्स नॉट अ दिल्ली स्पेसिफिक इशू, इट्स अ नेशनल इशू, बट आई वांट टू जस्ट प्रॉड यू अ बिट ऑन बोथ ऑन द नेशनल लेवल कि इंडिया में पॉलिसी मेकिंग के हिसाब से किस तरफ चीजें जा रही हैं और किस तरफ जानी चाहिए अकॉर्डिंग टू यू। एंड द थर्ड थिंग इज कि हाउ डू यू टाई दिस अप विद अ रीजनल फ्रेमवर्क, के जहां पर एक साउथ एशियन कोऑपरेशन और लैक देयर ऑफ के, मतलब अभी तक तो हुई नहीं है, हमें सार्क की तो मीटिंग ही हुए पता नहीं कितने साल हो गए। तो यू नो व्हाट वुड बी अ गुड वे टू प्रोग्रेस इन दैट डायरेक्शन?
See, firstly, if we think of the political economy of what has happened in the last few years in India, ये जो इलेक्शन हुए थे 2014, उससे पहले one of the more prominent form of infighting within the government that was brought to light in newspapers every day, and what we used to discuss on dinner table conversations, was a fight between the environment ministry and everyone else.
Right.
So there's a saying that the environment ministry is only doing its job well if all the other ministries are pissed off at it, they are angry.
Right.
Because its job is to kind of act as a checks and balance kind of ministry against everything else that is happening.
Right.
So that is the framework that we came in, where it almost became an electoral issue that we are unable to get big projects passed, or we are unable to implement development in the more popular sense of the word development, as infrastructure and so on. We're unable to do all those things because there's an activist ministry that is kind of being an impediment to all of these changes. So when the new government came in, their approach naturally was that let's figure out ways to make it easier for industries to kind of come in and do their things. And now, this is not to deny the fact that some things are often caught in bureaucratic tussle, and it is unnecessarily, it keeps going on for long, and therefore we should find ways to make it simpler for people who want to participate in the economy in various ways. I'm not saying ki koi bada miner aaye and go into a sensitive region and takes away the resources without compensating the people or whatever. I'm talking about in any form or any manner, if you and I want to start an enterprise, or if we want to participate in the economy in a certain way, there shouldn't be unnecessarily red tape. If it's not permissible, that's fine. It should be well communicated, but it should not be ki ek ke baad ek kuch, But in the effort of reducing that red tape, some of the environmental kind of regulations were toned down over time. So right now, we in general, because since then, in the past 6-7 years, as the economy has not really recovered since the last couple of years or last few years of the previous administration. So since then, this whole economy not being able to really go back to that growth rate era that we had in the past of whatever 9%, 10%. Keeping that in mind, the focus still is key. Let's figure out ways to ensure that there is more investments happening into all these sectors, including the extractive sector, including energy, including whatever else. So in general, that kind of fight or skirmish that we had, in different realms, that is reduced to the benefit of people who want to kind of, make these investments and make these kind of infrastructure pledges. But on the other side, what's happened globally is that many technologies and sectors that are actually good for decarbonization or good for action on climate issues or other environment issues, for global reasons, they have, or for technological reasons, they have kind of progressed. And India has been the beneficiary of it. So our push for solar energy over the last 6-7 years is a very big example of that. There was a point of time when, because of high cost and so on, our goal used to be key in the year 2022, we will have 20 gigawatts of solar power capacity. Okay.
Right.
Today, already in the year 2020, we were already at some 40-50 gigawatt, twice of our this. And now the goal actually is for 100 gigawatt by 2022. So it's basically 5 times more than that. And this along with wind and so on. So basically, some technological sectors shot ahead, which is why, from the perspective of the central government, despite being in a position where the environment ministry has played a, I guess, less aggressive role in protecting or regulating its space, despite that, the country has made gains in other aspects, like in terms of decarbonizing, in terms of whatever. So there's been a dichotomy of sorts at the national level. The big issue with India, however, is that anything that has not come naturally due to technological progress, on those issues nothing has been done. So air pollution is one such example. Air pollution की ऐसा कोई technologies नहीं आए कि automatically stubble burning कम हो जाए, automatically industry, so for that, the effort that is needed to make that happen वो नहीं हुआ है. No one's really taken that up as an issue. And that in the regional issue, as you said, what are the regional implications? I always say there's a reason why we succeeded at creating a climate change movement globally is because of Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement basically got all these countries together who made pledges. And once they made pledges, now we're expecting them to kind of honor those pledges. And we're trying to figure out ways, global mechanisms to make it happen. We need the equivalent of a Paris Agreement in India or in South Asia. You can call it whatever. You can call it the Rawalpindi agreement or the Patiala agreement or whatever agreement. Idea is that all these various state governments, be it Punjab on India or whatever else state on Pakistan, and maybe something in Bangladesh, and all these entities need to come together and make pledges as to what they will realistically do, because being a federal country, we just lack the regulatory mechanisms to ensure that all these states are acting on their promises. So instead of that, you need some form of mechanism that creates incentives for people to do things. वो अभी है नहीं. India में no one's taken the leadership on that.
Right. I think you've made some wonderful points. And you've given us so much to think about. And I'm sure, actually, मेरे ज़हन में तो अभी 8-10 और सवाल आ रहे हैं, but I think लोग बोर हो जाएंगे अगर हम ज़्यादा बात करें. तो I think what we should do is also have a follow-up on this, Sid, sometime soon, because there are so many issues that you have talked about and opened up. और जब तुम बात कर रहे थे ना, तो मुझे एक इमेज आ रहा था जहन में, और ये मैंने अपने फैमिली, अपने रिश्तेदारों में सुने हुए है कि जब भी इन्वायरमेंटल मिनिस्ट्री की बात आती थी ना, जो डिनर टेबल कॉन्वर्सेशन, हाँ जी ये तो डेवलपमेंट ही नहीं करने देते, ठीक है. एंड देन व्हेन दे गो टू यूरोप या अमेरिका जाएंगे, यार इतना साफ हवा पानी है, हमारे कंट्री में क्यों नहीं हो सकता? मतलब आपको सब कुछ चाहिए. ठीक है कि जी, हाँ, so that reflects our contradiction, our hypocrisy in that manner. But Sid, thank you so much for coming to the podcast and speaking about things that we didn't know anything about. Like मुझे तो diabetes का नहीं पता था, बहुत ही मतलब बुनियादी point है ये तो. Really. And Usman, do you have any concluding remarks?
No, I mean, I would really love to have a follow-up discussion with Sid and kind of look at how maybe we can look at regional cooperative frameworks, because this issue is not going away anytime soon. और अगर हम इसको अभी तक अपने वो nationalisms और national interest या national security paradigm से देखेंगे, this isn't really going to get fixed. So I think it's very important, especially regional cooperation किसी level तक की जाए. And I'm really, really glad कुछ बड़े interesting and revelatory points made by Sid. And I think we need to have these sorts of conversations more often. So please do, I guess I'm going to just plug in my guest over here. Please do get Siddharth's book, The Great Smog of India. I love that name, by the way. Fantastic.
Yeah.
He quotes everything from George Clooney's Syriana to Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Really, really interesting book. And he's also available on Twitter at @Siddharth, SIDDHARTH3. So do follow him on Twitter as well. Anything else, Sid? I hope this is good.
The only other thing I'd like to add is that my home here in Goa is open to both Usman and Amit. So hope to see, and both your better halves as well. So hope to see all of you here someday, so that perhaps we can have a live recording.
That would be lovely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that would be lovely.
Thanks so much, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to our listeners as well for listening to the Miti Power podcast. We had a really, really interesting discussion on the importance of understanding the environment and its effects, both in India and in Pakistan. For our listeners, if you have any feedback regarding the discussion, what went right, what we need to discuss more, please do reach out to us on email at mittipaopodcast@gmail.com. That's MITTIPAOPODCAST@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter at @pao_mitti, PAO_MITTI. And we're also available on Instagram at mittipao_podcast. That's it from me, Usman Zafar, and Amit Junka. Our very, very sincere thanks to Siddharth Singh, climate change expert, for joining us on this really, really interesting discussion. And we hope we will continue to have many, many more like these. Till then, from me and Amit, we will sign off from the Mitti Pao podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Cheers.